Goonies never say die, so let's talk about it. Hey guys, so the big thing that came out yesterday, or was it Friday? One of those 2 days, and that is that Richard Donner was interviewed by TMZ of all people, and they were basically asking him questions about what he thought about superhero movies, because for those who don't know, Richard Donner made the first Superman film. Long story short, the guy then asked Richard Donner if he's planning on making another movie, and Richard Donner replies with, "If a comic book movie you're referring to, you mean the Goonies sequel, then yes, I am making another comic book movie." And yeah, he basically confirmed that he's working on the Goonies 2. The other thing that he said was that he wants to have the whole cast from the original film to come back for this sequel. Now, for those who don't know, the Goonies is by far one of my favorite movies. I've watched the movie, I don't know, I've lost count. I mean, I own it. I just finished watching it today because I just had a kick to watch it. And I felt like I needed to watch it just to get my emotions ready for this video, because when I heard this news, I knew, I'm going to make a video to talk about it because this is one of my favorite movies growing up. And a sequel is something that I remember growing up. I've always wanted a Goonies sequel. But then I got to a point that I was like, you know what? The movie is fine the way it is as a standalone film. So I don't really need to see a sequel to this film. As a kid, you want to see a sequel to many of your favorite movies just because you love the movie so much. You don't care if they continue the story. Even though if the sequel ends up being crap, you don't really care because you just want to see a continuation of that movie you love. But then you get to a certain age or just a certain point in your life when it comes to movies, and you realize a sequel isn't always the best thing. And that's how I'm feeling right now. Like, do I want this sequel? Like, my inner child in me is like excited that they're even going to make a sequel, just because I'm curious to see how it is, and it is one of my favorite movies. So it's like one of those things that I'm curious as to how it turns out. But the logical side of me is like, I don't know if I really want this, because sequels are not always the best thing. Sequels can really take away from the franchise if it's not done correctly, and that's what I'm afraid of, that this movie's not going to be done correctly. Richard Donner hasn't made a movie that I've personally possibly even remotely enjoyed since like probably 1998. So I don't know how prepared he is to make a sequel to one of the most beloved movies of the 80s. So that's where I get worried, where I'm like, I don't know if I really want this. Like, I don't know how this would work. He wants to bring the original cast, so I don't think he's going to go in the route that he's going to literally use the original cast as the main characters in the movie. He could possibly do it in a story way where, I don't know, the kids of the original cast members come together and they go on an adventure. Like, I can see that happening and being on board with that type of story. So I don't know. We don't know how it's going to end. We don't know much of anything besides that he wants to make one, or he's in the works of making one, and he wants the original cast to be brought on to this sequel. That's all we know. I'm curious to hear what you guys think about this news of basically Richard Donner confirming that he's working on a sequel to the Goonies. So that's my thoughts on this news of the Goonies sequel. Thank you for watching, and if you haven't already, please subscribe. Only Lovers Left Alive is directed by Jim Jarmusch. I'm assuming that's how you say it. And it stars Tom Hiddleston, Tilda Swinton, and a bunch of other very talented actors and actresses. Now, the premise of this film follows the story of two vampires, Adam and Eve. Adam is played by Tom, Eve is played by Tilda, and it follows their love story. And it's an interesting movie in that sense because it's not just a love story. And the funny thing is, these are not human.